Welcome back to a Mind Revolution training. In this video, we're going to get into the actual flow of self-transcendence alchemy. You've done all of the exposing work. You've been through the avatar exposing. You've been through the beliefs uncovering. You understand that the elephant in the room is what I believe myself to be. You know that what it is that I am lies within, just under the surface, really, nearer than breath, closer than hands and feet, as we're told. What I is has been referred to as Christ. Christ is not a person. Christ is reference to the identity, the soul identity that I is. I is divine. I has nothing to do with a character, nothing to do with a person. And when we stand in the truth, it is indeed the truth that is infinite, all-encompassing love, perfection, wholeness, fulfillment, completeness that we see and naturally experience. The tangible experience of heaven is on the table. That's reality. That's real life. That's our inheritance to claim. So you have the flow of self-transcendence alchemy handout. And you can work through this as many times as you need to in order to get to the point where I accept what it is that I am in order to walk that straight and narrow, walk aright, be the truth to know the truth. So as was highlighted in the book in great detail, and you can get back into the book, there's a lot of detail in there that isn't on these handouts. So this is like a snapshot, really a cheat sheet to keep you focused, assuming that you have the intel. So let's get into this framework so that you can persist in seeing clearly. And it begins taking responsibility at the level of cause. And the level of cause is the level of effect. Cause and effect are one and the same. And what we're talking about here is the ground zero mechanism of experience. I see, experience what it is that I believe myself to be. So it is identity that is the causal factor in life. It is not the beliefs that are downstream of an assumed character that cause anything at all. In fact, if there's any sense that cause and effect are separate, you're not really at the level of cause. Simultaneous, experiential, embodied oneness is reality. And we don't stop until we get to that point. I am that I am is how it's often referred to. I am that I am are not words that a person says. I am that I am is the recognition of one, whole and complete, infinite, eternal, conscious awareness. So what we are doing here is essentially winding ourselves back. We're exposing all that isn't. And this is a repetitive task that is only helpful under one condition. And that is referred to in point number 1 here. There's only one truth. Only the truth is true. We stand in and on the rock-solid foundation that one is, all that is. And there is nothing else. So there is no such thing as exposing from a personal perspective. There is only the recognition that I am infinity. This untangling or detangling from the matrix can only be done when we recognize that only the truth is true. Only the truth is true, and therefore I can look at anything that seems to be arising in awareness. Remember that awareness and what I am aware of are misunderstood until we do understand. We are blind until we can see. And unfortunately, we're all blind until we can see. No one has the gift of seeing until they've really explored consciousness to the level of cause to recognize that cause and effect are one and the same. There's only one truth. I am love in the mind of love, and not one aspect of that personal story is true, and so I can look at all of it. I can resist not evil, we might say. What we're recognizing here is highlighted in point 2. I have a perceptual problem. Let's put this another way. I have a misidentification issue. I've made a mistake about what it is that I am. And it's obvious that I have because I'm upset. I'm out of peace. I'm out of joy. Everywhere where we are sensing this out of peace and out of joy is where I am misidentified. Yes, it is the case that most of us rarely experience peace that is imperturbable, joy that is imperturbable. More often, it is peace that is conditional and joy that is conditional, and that's not truth. So yes, we have a lot of unwinding to do. There's the facts laid before you. If you want the truth, and you need to want the truth to know the truth, there is work to do. There is very specific work to do. And this is, again, another reason why very few actually come to know the truth. So because I'm out of peace and out of joy, I'm mistaken about what it is that I am, because what it is that I actually is can never be out of peace, can never be removed from joy. It is what I am. And so we are distinguishing between what it is that is aware and what I am aware of, to be very clear that what I is the only constant, is the goal, is the priority, is the destination. Firmly established as I am, I cannot be removed, separated, divided from joy. It's not possible. And so it's easy to work backwards, if you will. Where am I not in joy? Where is there a lack of peace? Because that's where the trick of misidentification is hiding. That's where misidentification has led to misperception. Point 3 is really speaking to what we call one of the most important teachable qualities. A Course in Miracles is a wonderful resource, among many others, that tells us that you have one thing going for you, and it's the only thing that's necessary. You can learn. You might have learned everything wrongly, but now you can learn aright. And when we declare, I am willing to see things differently, I'm willing to see everything differently, it puts us in a very powerful position, you might say, because that's what's required. I have made everything mean something it doesn't. And so I have to be willing to see everything differently. Again, this sets you apart and puts you in such a minority, and hopefully sets you on course for the success of knowing thyself that is really available to all, and quite simple if you walk the right way. I'm willing to see things differently. But we can never drop the ball of being willing to see things differently, because perfection is reality. And it's not until we're seeing through the eyes of permanent perfection that we're actually in reality. Point 4 is really recognizing the wisdom that is my own essential being. What I is infinitely wise, and makes the personal paradigm and everything that I have attached to as my superior, supreme intellect look ridiculous. And this is important to actually raise this point, because we find in working with those who are the elite in our world. We work with really high voltage, successful clients who have attained everything. They've ticked every box of human living and are smart enough to recognize that's not it. They still feel empty. There's still something missing. There's still something to get. And they can see that that's not right in some way. How can that be? It doesn't make any sense. Something's not making sense. And as soon as we have that alarm going off, we begin to look, don't we? Well, we don't need to recreate the wheel. We simply get into the truth of what is, and what isn't simply crumbles away. That's the purpose of self-transcendence alchemy. It's not a lifelong game. In fact, our mission is to see this be such a small fraction of the journey to get to the point of where the real fun begins. Real awakening is the recognition of what I is. And here we are at the point of recognizing what I isn't in order to recognize with clarity what I is. Even the smartest get stuck thinking that they have some kind of supreme, advanced thinking capacity, and it's not true. Having been an education junkie myself, it all has to be put down to recognize that there is only one. That infinite oneness is the only mind, and there is no other. And when we try to personalize and live in this duality of there being a mind, my mind and another mind, we're sorely mistaken. So we invite this wisdom. We have to open that door to the light that is knocking, and it will always be knocking. We're not suffering from an absence of truth. We're suffering from a lack of awareness, or ignorance, as it's known in Eastern teaching. But ignorance is nothing. It's just a lack of awareness. We're bringing awareness. And point 5 invites you to be thorough. Be very thorough. We get into this in our community with focus and attention and prioritization. We can't drop the ball. We've had too many examples over the years of those who have seemingly attempted to study truth from a personal perspective, and it can't work. So it's only when we can no longer be triggered, moved, upset, that we're on the right track. I'm not even going to suggest that we're there yet at that point. But there's no such thing as I'm spiritually awakening and I'm upset about something. So we have to get very clear here that I stand in humility, that I stand in that powerful position of humility, recognizing that only the truth is true. If I'm upset, that's a key clue that I am mistaken about what it is that I am. A Course in Miracles again said, would you prefer to be right or happy? And what that's referring to is, would you prefer to be right about what you are, or unopposably, imperturbably, immutably happy? Because you can't have both. What is the upset? Let's go through these steps now so that we can be really clear, and you can make lots of copies of this handout and really get into it, because no one can do this work for you. Your I, is the infinite, eternal Christ light, the divine being, reality. You are heaven. You are the kingdom of heaven. No one can take the kingdom of heaven away from you, but they're not going to give it to you either. You have everything needed to know this, and you do not need someone else to tell you about it. Exploring consciousness is about each of us exploring what it is that I am. And when this is done, you stand in the final analysis You stand in the final judgment that all is good. You stand beyond time and space in the infinite eternal, having everything, wanting for nothing. So let's get really clear that we can apply this to every upset in our lives. What's the upset? What am I upset about? Describe it in detail. Remember, we're recognizing that this is a story attributed to a character that doesn't exist, because what I is the infinite, all-encompassing love, mind, one life. I and the Father, which is pristine, infinite, perfect consciousness, are one. So you can take this process through every upset, big, small, there's no such thing. Every disturbance to peace is a disturbance to peace. So what's the upset? Think of something relevant, recent. Think of something old. What comes to mind? What's the upset? You might like to pause now and get into it. Write out all the details. Really get into them and leave nothing out here. What we've seen over the years is that this can be a very quick part of the journey of spiritual awakening. It isn't meant to be a lifelong strategy for dealing with upset. Upset isn't real, because that which seems to be upset doesn't exist. So we do this work recognizing I am pristine and immaculate. This story of upset hides a character that I have assumed and accepted is what I am, but it isn't. So I'm going to look at this entire perceptual package to let it be, to let it go, to give all of my attention to truth. Nothing will distract me from the requirement of single-minded focus, living oneness, living the recognition of what is actually reality, what actually is going on. Then we can move into what are the upsetting emotions. You've got that emotions wheel to help you with this, so that you can really expose and verbalize what you might never have looked at before, or what you can't put into words. We really want to take this opportunity to get clear that the program of the record, the hits running me, are what I have assumed I am, but have nothing to do with what I really am. So I often say that we're just a record of revolving hits. You're familiar with your reactions, but they've got nothing to do with you. And the more that you can be clear about what I am not, to focus on what it is that I am, you will see that your upsets and your capacities are altered quite, I'm going to say, miraculously and magically, because that's what happens. It's the truth that sets you free. It's not you haggling with what isn't that does the job. It's not you going to war with what isn't that does the job. It's you letting go of what isn't. But you have to see what isn't in order to know what you're letting go of. So what are the upsetting emotions? Zoom out, and as many times as you need to through this process. You can go back to step one, reminding yourself that only the truth is true, and everything that I am aware of is not awareness itself. It's not what I am. It's only what I have assumed and thus accepted as something real through a false lens, through a mistaken identity. So you can get really more thorough here in getting clear about this perceptual bubble, this paradigm associated with what seems to be this situation or this upset. But what we'll find out in a minute is that it's just an idea that belongs to no one, that you can let go of entirely. And in letting go, that really, imagine, it frees you up to give your attention where you want to give it to. So what are the thoughts and the stories and the fears and the blame? Be really clear here, and you'll find that there is a great deal of vitriol hiding below the surface. You don't want to covet any of this. Raise it all into the light of awareness and recognize that that is looking and what I am aware of are not what I've made them mean. This does not belong to me. What I is pristine, infinite love. And this that I am exposing is the scourge of humanity. We can't fix humanity believing that humanity is something real. That's assuming a problem actually exists. And what we're here to recognize is that there is no problem. There's no foundation for any problem. The problem that I have assumed is that I am a separate being, that I am separate from love, that I am person, that I am an identity that is impossible. And this becomes clear the more that we expose what I am aware of to recognize what I am. So we can also now look at what are the beliefs. You have the beliefs cheat sheet that you can go through that really is your hit record. The beliefs that comprise the character you have assumed yourself to be. Ultimately, we want to withdraw belief from belief itself, because all that we have coveted in terms of belief is a prison that we've created for ourselves. There is, in fact, no prison. There are no prison bars, and there's no prison warden. You are free as a bird, pretending to be otherwise. So look at those beliefs. The feelings, the thoughts, the stories, blames, and fears. And they all prove the assumption of personhood, don't they? And they keep that resistance going where I wish things were different. I wish things were different, because we've made up this story about what I is and what I needs to feel okay. And as soon as we drop that hot potato, the light of reality, the light of heaven can penetrate, pushes through involuntarily. If you let God, if you let the infinite, it can't help but live you. And truly, that's what we all crave, that overflowing fullness, that sense of completeness, that imperturbable peace. And so we also have forgiveness, which is really the acceptance that I am forgiven, and right prayer, which are the subsequent steps. So once we're very clear about this perceptual package being nothing that has anything to do with me, and we let it go and we turn to that infinite self and declare that I am forgiven, that all is forgiven, that in fact there was nothing to forgive whatsoever. And we pray aright, which is recognizing that only the truth is true. It is the case that miracles become reality. I am the miracle. You are the miracle. The I that we have called I is not what we have believed it to be. It is, in fact, the immaculate spirit of life, of God, aware, perfect consciousness. You do indeed have dominion. You are indeed the emanation, if you like, of divinity. It's yours to claim. So you can use this framework to be really clear in the preparatory step for spiritual awakening, so that you can walk the right way. And the right way is accepting that I am found. What I is spirit. And we are no longer distracted like, unfortunately, most remain, dealing with the illusion of duality, dealing with this person that simply has no reality whatsoever. I already is forgiven. There has never been a problem in the world. I am immaculate. I am innocent. And I am eternal infinity. May you know this very swiftly to be the light. With love.